What's up, NCK fam? What's up, NCK fam? It's your girl Nelle, back again with another video. And in today's video, we're gonna tackle the hot topic of should Black people get the vaccine, yay or nay? I have some lovely guests with us, and they're going to help me, work through this topic of the vaccine and COVID and all these things happening in the Black community. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about why COVID is affecting the Black community more than any other community, and then we can go into some viewer questions that you all submitted. So, for the COVID death total in the United States, there are 33.6 million cases of COVID and totaling of 603,000 deaths. Right. And so the Black COVID count, according to Politico, states that at the same time, Black people in several areas have accounted for an increasing proportion of the COVID-19 cases and deaths, including in Washington, D.C., where government data indicates that they made up of nearly 8 in 10 new cases and causes in 90% of death totals since May 1st. And so we might be asking, why are Black people being more affected by COVID than any other nationality, race, etc.? Well, I did a research paper like last year, and what I found in my research was that Black people are being affected by COVID for many reasons. One being food deserts and the lack of nutritional resources in the Black community that could help fight or combat immune deficiencies. The residual effects of redlining causing segregations in neighborhoods, coupled with the lack of economic resources and job discrimination, allowed for poor Black neighborhoods to be created. And within those neighborhoods, multiple families are living in houses, sometimes 5, 6, 7 at a time. And houses are usually pushed together, allowing there to be little to no space to quarantine. Also, with the hustle and bustle of, trying to make ends meet, the fact of quarantining is not as attractive because there are little to any opportunity to make monies, from home, which people, are more willing to, go out even in the face of danger to provide for their families, as well as those in the metropolitan areas have to take public transportation, or I shouldn't say have to, but are more likely to take public transportation, which also leads to the effect of, catching disease, fairly quickly. And the last reason I researched my topic was that in, poor areas, the medical facilities are, subpar to those in wealthier areas. So those are the things that I researched. Lastly, I want to talk on before I introduce my guests are that about the vaccination and, the statistics of Black people who have been, vaccinated. So according to KFF, as of June 21st, less than half of the Black and Hispanic population have received at least one COVID vaccine dose in nearly all states reporting. And this is despite, the COVID vaccine being easily accessible to everyone. You don't have to have insurance or anything like that. But despite, Black people being the most affected, as a whole, we are less likely to get the vaccine. So that's my introduction for this topic. And I want to, bring on my guests. So if you all would, unmute, state your name and your relative experience or your expertise in this matter. Also, if you can state what motivated you to take the COVID vaccine and why do you trust it? Amirchi, we'll start with you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Amirchi. I'm a recent Smith College alumna, and my level of expertise is just an informed citizen, a person who tries to stay informed about what's going on. And for me, getting the vaccine was influenced by a number of things. For one, receiving it on campus made it very easy, so I didn't have to go out of my way to get it. Two, prior to getting the vaccine, I was working in a lot of jobs that were considered high risk in grocery stores, in warehouses, and between that and knowing that I'm constantly in spaces interacting with people, it didn't really feel like a choice, but more so a necessity in order to keep myself safe and my family safe. And so I think those were, the main deciders. Yeah.
And I think Amirchi's being a little shy. She majored in chemistry and does multiple research in labs with, scientific information and such alike. Don't be shy, guys. All right, Jessica, we'll pass it on to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica, and like Amirchi, I'm also a recent graduate of Smith College. I majored in engineering science while I was at Smith, specifically with a focus in biomedical engineering and chemical engineering. And I would say my expertise within this is more so, I'm someone who tend to be very interested in what's happening within the science realm, especially science research and medical research. And what motivated me to get this vaccine is more so that I realized that if I did not have it, I'll be presented with a lot of limitations. And I'm not someone who likes living with such limitations. Like Amirchi said, more so I'm in spaces where I'm amongst people, whether with medical conditions or people I'm not aware of and their everyday lives. So just to keep myself safe and also kind of feel like I'm somewhat going back to a normal life again, I got the vaccine. Yeah.
Thank you both. For me, what motivated me actually, I was the type of person to be like, okay, I'm gonna just wait, see what happens to, everyone and things like that. But when I was on a, group FaceTime call with these two individuals, Amirchi, she was like, are you gonna wait until she was like, are you gonna wait until, someone has COVID, or are you just gonna wait till, someone dies from COVID in order for you to take it seriously? And I was like, dang, you're right. Like, what am I literally waiting for? It's like people who say they want to do research on something and they never do research. I think as a whole, we've forgotten necessarily what we're fighting against with the vaccine. I think people remember 2020, not necessarily of the tragedy that comes with COVID. I'm thinking of particularly when COVID was really bad and we saw that, there were just so much deaths that the medical professionals couldn't keep up with it. I'm reminded of the incident, I think it was in New York, guys, where there was just so much deaths and there was like a truck full of dead bodies because there was just no graves to put people in. And so in the hot heat, there was just a truck of dead bodies. And I feel like people have forgotten necessarily like what we're fighting against with wanting to get the COVID vaccine. It's not necessarily just to, getting out the house, yes, but we're fighting against a disease that, prior we had no knowledge of. It was robbing us of so much life events, so much life period. I remember when I was going with a family member to get their first dose of COVID, the vaccine. And the officer that was there, regulating, he was like, yeah, my father has COVID and nobody could go see him in the hospital. Like he's literally on a ventilation and we have to like see him through, FaceTime and screening. And I think people are forgetting that once you have COVID in the hospital, yes, people are recovering. But prior to that, people were dying by themselves with no loved ones, nobody around them. They were literally by themselves. And I think if we remember, what we're fighting against, getting the vaccine won't be as hesitant. All right. So I asked you all on Instagram to give us, some questions or concerns that you guys had about the vaccine. And, we're going to try to answer them. This is no way of us, forcing the vaccine on anyone, but, just giving our opinions on the whole topic. So the first question comes, all right, this vaccine was made too fast. Why should we trust it? and anyone can answer. I can go first. So actually, prior to filming this video, I saw this commercial, and it talked about New York, and what it was saying was that the reason why the COVID vaccine was made so fast was because there were a lot of, collaboration between scientists and research developers than there had been in past, vaccines. There was a lot of funding being put towards this, so things moved a lot quicker than they would have if there was a limited amount of funding. There was a lot of volunteers who came together and was like, okay, you can test on me. So that made things a little easier, as well as, fun fact, there were prior research to the vaccine already in progress. So it was looking to prior research that had already been done, to make the vaccine quicker to be accessible. But why do you think, the vaccine was made really fast? Should people trust it?
I'll chime in here. Oh, sorry. Jessica, do you want to?
Yeah, I wanted to say something more so. You don't have to trust it. And yeah, it's like, I kind of had the same exact suspicion when it was made so fast, especially knowing that like drugs that have been in development for years tend to go through they go through almost like a 15-year, if not 20-year process, with like clinical trials lasting multiple years. So everything happening in the same year, yes, I was a bit suspicious. However, like you said, multiple groups were collaborating on it. And they were not necessarily, I don't believe they were making a cure, but more so a treatment for like the symptoms and I guess all like the negative side effects that COVID did have. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do recall reading that somewhere, as well as, like you said, funding just being poured into this one area and just having everything sped up. And also additionally, there was like COVID is not a new thing. Like COVID existed, and there has been, it's just a new, I guess, strain. Maybe I'm using the wrong word. I'm not exactly sure. Margie can correct me. Maybe it was a new strain, but more so, there has been treatments for like the other types of strains from COVID, and based on like the treatments from there, they kind of derived like what we currently have, the vaccine that we have today.
Yeah, I agree with Jessica. COVID as we know it and as we're experiencing it is new, but like SARS-CoV-2 is new, but like COVID in general, similar viruses, those aren't new. And I think like questions of trust are always, I was hesitant because they're always hard to answer. I guess being Black and having this like inherent distrust in the medical community because of history, it's like, you can trust, you can also not trust, and you're not necessarily wrong to do either. So I got the vaccine, and I do think like for a lot of people, it is a leap of faith to, trust society, trust facilities, trust people who in a country that was not designed for you to thrive. Like it's always a leap of faith. But at the same time, I also think we were living for a while without a vaccine, without any option. We were just, we were just in the state of wondering when are things going to get better. So I see like having that as an option as an immense privilege.
Thank you. Thank you. A side question or something similar to that. This person writes, how are they able to, cure cancer, but are able to, create a vaccine? And I think I also struggled with this too. But then I thought about the monopolization of the medical field, and it's more profitable to keep people with cancer than I think it is to keep people with COVID. I mean, that's why they had the, stimulus checks to help people, circulate money throughout the country. So if anybody wanted to tackle this question, you're more than welcome. But if you think you answered it already, we can definitely move on.
Well, I guess the reason we haven't found a cure for cancer is more so because cancer is so multifaceted. Like there's not one direct hit to cancer. And like if it affects various areas of the body, and depending on where you target or how you target it, it can also have overlapping effects for other parts of the body. And then also based on like time and progression, it gets even worse. So more so, it's so multifaceted, that's and unpredictable. That's why there's currently not a cure for cancer. However, with the vaccine, I feel like viruses act in similar behaviors. I'm not sure, you can correct me on this. They kind of have similar behaviors. So developing a vaccine is like you kind of know what it's going to do in the body. You just don't know what area in the body or something. So once you figure out what area, it might probably be the same similar process in figuring out a cure for it or treatment for it.
Yeah, I won't say too much about cancer or virology because that's not something that I've studied, but I will say that one is communicable and one is not. And so that makes a huge difference whether or not something is being transferred from person to person versus something that arises like on its own. I think studying those are just two very separate things. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next question comes, what's in the vaccine? It's funny because the Shade Room posted something about Subway the other day and how the Subway tuna has no tuna in it. And I made a comment. I made a comment of like, y'all have been eating the Subway tuna for so many years and had no idea what was in the Subway tuna. But now when it comes to vaccine, y'all want to know every ingredient. And I just thought that was so funny. You guys probably don't know what's in the vaccine, seeing how y'all didn't create the vaccine. But if you have any idea what's in the vaccine to help these people out, you can chime in. Or your comment on this question or anything.
I have no idea what's in that vaccine. I am not an expert in this area whatsoever. I just know I got the vaccine. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, what's been circulating is that at least for the Pfizer and Moderna, that they're both mRNA vaccines. So I feel like if you're interested in like it's definitely something that can Google, no shade. Yeah, but I mean, as for other components of the vaccine, I'm not sure.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. All right. The next question. The vaccine, this is a concern, not a question, but the vaccine has so many complications, so it must not be safe. And I think this comment is referring to the cases with, I think, J&G, the JJ vaccine, the
Johnson & Johnson
vaccine, and how
Johnson & Johnson
clots in women. And then I think there was another vaccine. It might be Johnson & Johnson, or it might be something else, where it affected like teenage men. They had heart complications with the vaccine. So they're saying the vaccine has so many complications, it must not be safe, so we shouldn't trust it. Do you have any comment to that question? I mean, to that concern, or?
I mean, there's a lot of things we put in our bodies that's not safe, or we don't know exactly what's in it. But I guess we don't have as much concern for it, and we still do it. But I feel like maybe that also goes back to your previous question about how like it was made so fast. So maybe there wasn't enough time to actually check for every little detail, every little aspect of the vaccine.
Yeah, I'm thinking to your first point, Jessica, and how like there's so much things that happens on a day-to-day, where we consume so many things that all have health risks, right? But it's like What's the phrase? It's like we're looking at one thing without looking at the rest, and we're trying to pinpoint, oh my gosh, COVID has this and this, but like when you look at the sum total of your life, all these things have this and this and this, but it's like we're pinpointing this one thing with the vaccine. So that's my comment to that. But Amirchi, I don't know if you were willing to unmute or.
Yeah, kind of along a similar like vein as you guys. A lot of things have risks. I mean, Johnson & Johnson, they were talking about like blood clots, but also if you use like prescription birth control, the rate of getting blood clots is like 10 times higher, and people still make that choice. I think, yeah, it comes down to making a choice for what you think is best for you. I don't know. I think like weighing out the downsides of the vaccine and what it looks like when you get COVID, and even if you survive COVID, we don't talk about the fact that people who survive COVID are like left with all sorts of like morbidities. You know, they can't breathe the same, they can't walk the same, they can't live the same. But we're just like, okay, you made it through COVID. Yeah, but people's lives are changed forever. So even if you are healthier and you do have a good chance of surviving, like, I'm gonna take my chance with that vaccine.
Yeah, that's a great point. In the last episode, I think of Grey's Anatomy, Meredith Grey, or Ellen Pompeo, the actress who plays Meredith Grey, she was talking about like, yeah, I survived COVID, but there's just so much things that I can't do. Like I can't breathe right. I can't, operate without passing out. So yeah, that's a great point, Amirchi. Great point. We have a few questions left. This one comes to say, there are multiple vaccines with multiple companies. Doesn't that seem like mad fishy? Like there's multiple sources giving out this one vaccine. Why aren't they all the same? Like, what's the difference between the Johnson & Johnson, the Moderna, the Pfizer? Yeah. So the question is, it seems kind of fishy that there are multiple vendors for the vaccine.
I believe the Moderna and the Pfizer's were made similarly or with a similar approach. I'm not 100% sure on the Johnson & Johnson one, but the reason there's a whole bunch of different vaccines is just money. Corporations want the money and recognition for being the first ones to make the vaccine. That's my opinion and take on it.
Yeah, it's just money. Honestly, I'm grateful that there isn't just one. I think if there was just one company distributing vaccines, I'd probably be a little suspicious, because in, I don't know, a capitalist country, I feel like that would just never fly. I would be more worried. But yeah, and then we have those three, and then I think even abroad, there's still like the AstraZeneca vaccine. There are more companies distributing vaccines. But yeah, I think it just all comes down to profits.
Well, I didn't even know about the abroad vaccine, so thank you for that. Next, so this one I think is a popular one. It says they're pushing too much incentives on the vaccine. So I know for certain places, like you got a free, I don't know if you got like a free ticket, but I know for like Shake Shack, you got like a free burger and fries or something like that. And these different places are like pushing, you get free this, free that, free this, free that, free this, free that. And mostly it's targeted towards the Black community. So why do you think they're pushing so much, incentives? It just doesn't seem right. But I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier and how the Black community, the majority of the ones, affected by COVID. So of course, the main focus would be on us to be vaccinated. And what I read before, like less than half of us are even vaccinated. So why do you think there's such a huge incentive for, Black people, people of color to get the vaccine? There's so much incentives.
Well, I personally believe the incentive is more so because there's not. Yo, what happened? Okay, my bad. I personally believe that the incentive is more so because medicine the history of medicine pertaining to Black people has not been that great. And yes, and literally within this scenario with the vaccine, of course, Black people are suspicious about it and just not interested in getting it because American history has not properly treated Black individuals. Like you can think back to the Tuskegee experiment and Black women being not their voices not being heard within medical facilities till this very day. So it's just trust and the lack of trust for medicine in this country.
Yeah, I also think it comes down to trust. I also think it's like that those actions don't foster trust in any way. Like, I understand why people would be distrustful if they're like, hey, you know, get the vaccine and you can get, some states are offering like blunts at like dispensaries or like get the vaccine and you can get a burger. Like, is this a joke or is this about like public health? So I think they could have thought that one through. I'll leave it at that.
Yep. Yeah.
I want to add on to America's statement, and I personally believe is more so they're taking advantage of the fact that Black people are probably one of the main, if not one of the main consumers in this country. And they're just like, oh, well, we love consuming goods and we love doing all these things. So let's push it on them to their advantage and make it free or something so they can go and get these vaccines. So, and honestly, I feel like the push, one of the main reasons that all these corporations and all these places are pushing Black people to get these vaccines is the whole idea of going back to normal. But like going back to normal, honestly, the main people it benefits is corporations. They just want to go right back to the point where Black people are just consuming and pretty much using their money to build up all these businesses that don't benefit us in whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna add on to that, Jessica. They need us to go back to work. Period. They are the incentive. Yes, is dual. Yes, because Black people are being the most effective, but I think the need for Black people to get back to work drives that a little bit more than the incentive to help Black people, get back to good health. I think the economic drive and the capitalist mindset, Amir, like how you were talking, Black people, work is driving more. All right, 2 last questions. So this pertains to schooling and the COVID vaccine. So why are schools forcing vaccines on students even though they're remote? Which I think is a good question. I think this might have to boil down to school policy and maybe even state policy. And, if you're a student of this school, if you pay tuition, whether you're remote or in person, you have to, get the vaccine. And I think most schools are pushing further to coming back to online, in person. So that might be a drive, but why do you think schools are pushing, vaccines on people who are remote? Do you think this is correct? Do you think that it should be a choice for students who are remote, whether they should get the vaccine or not, because they're not, in school in the public domain? So,
yeah, I actually didn't know that schools were doing this. I knew for students to return to like a campus setting, there seemed to be a push, but for remote, off the top of my head, I really don't see why that would be a thing.
Yeah, I agree. Like if a school is if they're planning on staying remote, I don't see why it's a necessity to have the vaccine if the person is not interested in getting the vaccine. But like you said, Chanel, how a whole bunch of schools are trying to go back to like on-campus living. Maybe they're pushing that now or at the point where they can be remote, and then hopefully by like the following semester or the following year, they can go back to like normal on-campus living and college lifestyle. But again, a whole bunch of colleges are losing money from students not being on campus, so they need them on campus.
Mm-hmm. Does your answer change if the school is a hybrid? Like you can choose to be online and you can choose to be on person. Does your answer change towards, schools mandating that students get the vaccine if it's like a hybrid environment?
No. Maybe I'm a little confused. I just think if you're not on campus, if you're not interacting with that school space, there should be no reason that they make it mandatory for you to get the vaccine, because you do not pose a risk to anybody in that environment. At the most, you pose a risk to yourself, your family, and the people in your community. And if they're not cracking down the web, why is your school doing it?
Yeah, I agree. Also, while I was staying on campus at Smith, I realized even after like most of the campus were vaccinated, the process of still social distancing, wearing a mask, all these regulations that were put on during the point where no one was vaccinated, no vaccine was developed. They were still continuing even post the vaccine point, and that I'm assuming that's because I guess there were students who did not have or get the vaccine. But I feel like with a whole bunch of schools, even after students get the vaccine, they're still going to continue with these COVID regulations, which I don't understand, because you're pushing something onto them, but yet you're still refusing to change the environment that they're coming in. So what's the point? Yeah.
I see. So you're saying, what's the point of getting a vaccine if we're still going to be under vaccine, like COVID protocols? That makes sense. That totally makes sense. All right. For our last question, it states, the government lied to Black people with the Tuskegee experiment, and medical professionals violated Henrietta Lacks. Why should I trust the government that gets off on mutilating the Black body? Oof, that was deep. I'll let y'all think about that one, because it's both and for me. Why should I trust it? But also, I don't want to be stuck in the house. So it's a both and question for me. Wow, that was deep. I'll let y'all think about it.
I don't know why you have to trust it. I personally do not, because I'm really sitting here trying to find maybe an ounce of reason as to why you should trust the medical system. And I'm thinking, has it improved since the point of the Tuskegee experiment and so on? But it's the way they treat Black women within the medical system today, it doesn't really seem like much improvement. And plus, with all these statistics that currently exist with today, and yet still no policies or regulations or laws have been made to improve it. So yeah, I don't see a reason why it should be trusted. But at the same time, I want to believe that there is an ounce of hope and an ounce of good intention behind medicine for Black individuals today. Yeah, I guess all of it is not evil today as much as it was in the past. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, I have something to say. I think for one, the vaccine is being distributed pretty universally. So if one of us goes down, we all go down. But that's but that aside, yeah, trust is a hard one. I think there's always going to be some sort of leap of faith involved. Some weighing out the risks and the benefits. And, me getting the vaccine doesn't mean that I trust everything that America has ever done and ever will do. Doesn't mean that I completely trust the medical community. Doesn't mean I trust Pfizer or the people who work there, even the people I know who work there. But it just was, weighing out the risks and the benefits and making the decision that I thought was best for me.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies, for such an informative talk. Yay! So, yeah, do you guys have any closing words that you want to leave the people with? Yeah, thank you guys so much for just sharing your opinions on this hot topic, and then why you got it and things like that. So thank you all so much. But if anybody has any closing remarks, feel free.
I have closing remarks. More so, I guess I want to emphasize that we are not professionals whatsoever. We don't know much about the creation of the vaccine, the process that it was made. We're literally recent college graduate students who all got the vaccine and wanted to, I guess, share our opinions on it. But in terms of medical advice, don't come here for it.
Not yet.
You're right.
Not yet. Don't come here for it yet. But yeah, it's just our simple opinion, and hopefully it does add some insight to your opinions on the vaccine, whether you get it or not. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll just add that regardless of whether or not you get the vaccine, make an informed decision that's right for you. So we have all these tools, social media, so it's so easy for information to spread, but just as easy for misinformation to spread. So, before you make a choice based on, the latest thing somebody sent you on WhatsApp, maybe look into it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies, for coming on here. These are the bright minds of tomorrow. Literally here, looking back at this video, you'll see a doctor, you'll see a PhD engineer, and it's just, great to, look back on this and see your advice from now, and we can compare it into the future. Thank you, ladies, so much.
You'll see a lawyer too.
Ooh.
You'll see a lawyer too.
NCK fam, thank you, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.